spiritual paths are invested in some type of a process or some type of a meditation where we're trying to get rid of our thoughts, or we're trying to eliminate things in our life. And that really is not the way, because there's a very subtle underlying resistance in that that prevents us from ever being free of those things that we are rejecting. And so what we ultimately need to do, if there is such a thing, is to lose interest in everything other than God, other than the self. And in order for that to occur, one has to have their own direct experience, their own direct insight into the joy, the stillness, and the peace that's associated with giving attention to that. Otherwise, letting go of those other things won't happen. If somebody is addicted to food, they're not going to stop being addicted to food until they find that which is more enjoyable, more sublime, more happy within them. And so this goes for any other type of process across the board. Until someone finds something that is more enjoyable, something that requires them to not give attention to the other, not because they're told not to do it or because they don't want to do it anymore, but because attention on the self becomes so enjoyable that the idea of giving your attention to anything else doesn't appeal to you anymore. And in this way, the mind begins to turn inward and stay inward. It's no longer pulled out towards things, chasing after things. If someone believes they're going to get more enjoyment, you see, from buying cars or buying expensive things and homes and jewelry and all these things, and traveling around and doing all these things, if that's more enjoyable than their sense of self, then of course they're going to choose those things. And even if they pretend like they're not interested in them anymore, they will always come back to those compulsions.
What if the ego has evolved to a point where it's saying, well, everything is God, so, the car I want is also made of consciousness, which is God?
Yes. Well, that's, a pretty standard rebuttal. And yet, remember, God is the formless awareness that contains everything. Everything exists as a ripple, you see, or a movement in that consciousness, but ultimately God is the whole of consciousness. Are the forms within it also considered God? No, because they're limited, and God is not limited. And so, in this way, the mind will justify and rationalize giving attention to those things. And as well it should, until something that is more nurturing, more loving, you see, more beautiful, more peaceful comes along to replace that, to draw their attention away. And this is the tool that God uses to draw the seeker inward. It doesn't have to make you stop doing things. It's not violent. The true spiritual path is not violent or aggressive in any way. See? It just slowly lures you in to that peaceful place within you. It doesn't have to tug you away or get you to do processes and things like this, which are all very violent. You don't have to bend your body. You don't have to stand on your head. You don't have to do any of that. None of that's necessary. Just find I, feel the sense of I, and turn your attention inward toward that. And what happens is you eventually catch the current, the heart current, the stream moving inward, the natural tendency, the flow of consciousness. And once you catch that current, ride it inward. Just rest in that, you see. And then all these other processes and all these efforts and practices will become obsolete. But they are necessary initially, because the ego is desperately looking for some sense of relief. At the same time, it also wants to keep this world of form alive. And so once again, just don't try to stop doing the things that you're doing. All that's necessary is to give your attention to the I and ask, who am I? What is this I? You see? And this reverses the flow. This breaks the habit, the tendency of the mind to want to go out and to conquer the world, to get more things and accumulate. You see, build and grow the ego. So there is, in truth, there is no ego. There's just the mind externalized. When the mind turns in, it's felt as the self. And there is only one self. There's not the large self and the small self.